From all over America, we're bringing people to Hollywood, people who have something to say. On this show, they'll tell it to Groucho. Hey, that's me.
It's the Marx Brothers Council Podcast, episode 88, The Joy of Marx. I'm Matthew Coniam, and if you're Matthew Coniam just half as much as I'm Matthew Coniam, then it's all been worthwhile. And with me is a man who is much more than just my brother. He's like a co-host to me, Noah Diamond.
Ho, 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 Matthew. Ho, ho, ho.
And as ever, Bob Gassell is producing, so just be glad you can't see him doing it. It's our end of the year holiday show. The party's in full swing and we've all been drinking for the past 6 hours. So if I haven't told you already, I really love you, man. Hey, You Bet Your Life, Groucho's triumphantly successful game show, is one of the most beloved of all the things with which he was associated, and we've talked about it quite a lot on the podcast. It began on radio in 1947, debuted on TV in 1950, and ran until 1961. But comparatively little has been said about the show that came hot on its heels. Tell It to Groucho premiered 7 months after You Bet Your Life ended in the winter of 1961, and everyone involved must have assumed that it would hit big just as You Bet Your Life had, but for whatever reason, it didn't quite, and it's now kind of receded into history, whereas the reputation of You Bet Your Life still marches on. Noah, in case anyone is unfamiliar with Tell It to Groucho, what exactly are they unfamiliar with?
That's an interesting question, isn't it? When we talk about You Bet Your Life, often we emphasize how the game part of this game show didn't really matter very much. You know, it wasn't really about the quiz. The substance of the show was Groucho talking to the contestants, interviewing them before the quiz. And the game part, you could almost just skip most of the time. And yet, the attempts to recapture the magic of You Bet Your Life suggest that maybe there was something about that show and that game that worked particularly well. You could also argue that it was the timing, starting in 1949, where Groucho was at that moment, and where the medium was at that moment, had something to do with You Bet Your Life being this kind of lightning in a bottle. Tell It to Groucho, like What Do You Want? You know, these attempts to get it back again after the end of You Bet Your Life didn't quite work. There would be a premise, like in the case of Tell It to Groucho, what do you want to tell somebody? You know, go on TV and Groucho would be like America's national therapist who you could tell your hopes and dreams to. And the premise of What Do You Want is the same thing, you know, tell Groucho what you want. And there would be a quiz element. They tried rather ineffectively to vary it from the kind of straightforward trivia game of You Bet Your Life and flash pictures for short lengths of time, like show you a picture for 3 seconds and you have to identify who it is. You know, ways of trying to make the game show part of the game more interesting. Surrounding this was what we're used to being entertained by, which is Groucho talking to everyday people.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I know that the reason why Groucho was chosen in the first place for You Bet Your Life was because it was felt that he would probably be the right person to handle that kind of a show with interaction with ordinary people and whatever. But nonetheless, it was, I think, a program that kind of grew as it went along. Whereas this, it feels like a program that has been sort of cooked up in a chemistry lab, where the people have sat down and they said, right, so what is it about You Bet Your Life that people like? They like the interaction with the contestants, so we'll play that up. And it has a slightly kind of artificial, strained quality to it, that You Bet Your Life doesn't. For one thing, I suppose because on You Bet Your Life, sometimes, you know, his chat with those guests goes on for most of the program, and they're very uncomfortably stood there the whole time. He's all right, he's sat down, but they're stood up next to his little booth, aren't they? So here, there's chairs out, they're sitting down, and it's more of a kind of a talk show ambience, isn't it? Except it's a talk show where you're totally uninterested in the guests.
Yeah, right. And there isn't, at least in the what meager evidence we have. I mean, these programs didn't go on for years. We don't have many episodes to look at. But on You Bet Your Life, there was a pretty good mix of guests who were obviously chosen because they were so eccentric and over the top, and it was fun to see Groucho respond to people who were essentially performers, chosen because they were such unforgettable characters. And Groucho had essentially placed straight man to them. In the mix with people who were just kind of, as the contestants were advertised, everyday people talking about their lives in colloquial terms, and that was fun, almost in the way that reality television at its most basic can be fun, because you're watching real people. On Tell It to Groucho and What Do You Want, it seemed like the guests were chosen a little excessively from a desire to put eccentric people on television. So you never really got the sense that Groucho was having a conversation the way he did at its best on You Bet Your Life. In fact, the What Do You Want pilot and the Tell It to Groucho pilot, I think both feature the same contestants, the mother and daughter with
really?
many, many cats. I mean, they had them back, to have another apparently spontaneous conversation where Groucho learns about how they are trying to meet men and how they have, many, many cats. So it feels a little forced.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. That's very interesting. I mean, having said all that, though, I think it is a surprise that it was so roundly ignored, isn't it? Because obviously it was coasting on an awful lot of goodwill from 10 years of You Bet Your Life. I mean, one wonders if maybe it was just time to give it a rest for a year or two anyway, and even if they brought back You Bet Your Life for another year, it might have tailed off. And I mean, 10 years is a long time to sustain something like that, no matter how good you are, isn't it? But it is surprising to me, I think, that it didn't have any kind of a life.
Yeah, me too, because Groucho is Groucho, and he is delightful. He is funny and witty. But, maybe in the same way that by the late 1930s, the Marx Brothers were just kind of spent as a current comedic going concern. Even if you got their best writers back and their best co-stars back, could they have gotten the lightning in the bottle again that they had in the late 20s and early 30s? Perhaps not. And after, more than 10 years on You Bet Your Life, if Tell It to Groucho or What Do You Want had been the original premise in 1949, either of those shows could have been You Bet Your Life. There is something that happens as the years go by and you watch You Bet Your Life evolve. One of the things that happens is you kind of see the rock and roll era coming in, and you see Groucho go from being a middle-aged, but I don't know, in a funny way, kind of a hip character in the early years of You Bet Your Life, just about the smartest and quickest comedian on earth, to being increasingly playing this more avuncular character, playing on the fact that he's a little out of touch with the kids these days. And that really comes through even more in the attempts to follow up. But when you watch You Bet Your Life, you're not usually thinking, this episode is from 1960. You don't place it in time very often. And partly for that reason, I don't think I am aware of a dropping off in quality over the course of that show's run. I think it just ceased to be new and exciting.
Yeah, I've never sat down and watched it kind of season by season. I just, watched those best of DVDs and things that just pluck episodes from all over. Yeah, and you're never really aware. I mean, you can see changes, some of them not as good as others, but in terms of the actual quality of the material you're watching, there's very no sign of a drop off. But it's interesting as well, isn't it, that the program sort of behaved the way the films did, as you said. By the end of the 30s, people were thinking, enough already. So they go away, and then kind of 20 years later, they're revived and sort of loved again. The same thing sort of happens here with You Bet Your Life, doesn't it? When it goes into reruns in the 1970s, it becomes a kind of a cult hit again on television.
As well as, crucially, a bridge to the films. I mean, I think a lot of people, the Marx Brothers revival of the 70s that we talk about, I think a lot of that happened because Groucho was so available on television every day.
Okay, well, if anyone is unfamiliar with Tell It to Groucho, let's just now listen to a little bit of Tell It to Groucho to get an idea of the more sort of sedate, laid back style of it compared to the much punchier You Bet Your Life.
Now let's get acquainted. Where are you from, Batista?
I'm from Berbeno, Italy, and I was American citizen born.
You were wait a minute. You come from Italy and you were born in America?
No, American citizen.
You're an American citizen now.
I was born an American citizen in Italy.
You were born an American citizen in Italy?
Right.
Well, how do you speak like an Italian?
Well, I was born in Italy, that's why I speak like an Italian.
Well, now how can you be your name is Batista? I hate to mention spaghetti at a time like this, but is it possible you're off your noodle? Now, Mr.
Batista.
Mr. Sailing says you're a very good operatic singer. And if this is true, what were you doing as a waiter in a restaurant?
Well, I've done almost anything to support my wife and 4 children. I've worked as a bartender, boss boy, truck driver, bulldozer, you name it, and I have done it almost.
Are you still a waiter?
No.
You don't have any job now, huh?
No.
Why not? Are you allergic to work?
My last job, I quit. I had a little accident, and
What happened? You brought in the food on time and they fired you?
I was a room service waiter.
Oh?
And they call in the orders, you know. This lady wanted 2-minute soft-boiled eggs. So we have a little machine in the kitchen, and you put the eggs in it, and the times, you know, go by itself clockwise. So we usually put 2 minutes, a minute and a half, and then by the time you get it up to the minute to the room,
It's 4 hours later.
the heat from the egg will bring it up to 2 minutes. So I got up there, I opened the eggs, put it out. Oh, she said they're not done enough. So I go back and I get another order. Anyway, she sent me back 7 times. And I guess I lost my Italian temper. I took the 2 eggs and I went, wow.
Did you say, madam, this is a good joke on you?
Groucho's co-host on the show was Joy Harmon, an actress of stage, TV and film. She's probably best known these days for her car washing scene in Cool Hand Luke and for standing 30 feet tall in her stocking feet in Valley of the Giants. But you'll also find her in Under the Yum Yum Tree, The Loved One and A Guide for the Married Man. On TV, she's appeared in Beverly Hillbillies, Batman, Bewitched, The Monkees, The Odd Couple and many more. I'm delighted to say that Joy has agreed to join us to talk about her memories of working with Groucho. But before we welcome her, let's remind ourselves of her first meeting with Groucho on You Bet Your Life.
Do you plan on getting married in the near future?
No, I can't really think of marriage because I think it's more important if you want a career, you have to really work at it and stick to it. And when you think of marriage, it kind of takes you away from...
Yeah. Takes you away from your husband, yeah. Those
maybe.
noble, innocent dreams of youth, huh?
Maybe soon, but...
Joy, my guess is some shining night in a white convertible will come riding by and carry you off to his castle in some housing project. Joy, my advice to you is be prepared for marriage. You never know when it'll sneak up and hit you in the back. Suppose you suddenly fall in love and get married. Are you qualified to be a housewife?
Well, my mother's...
No, not your mother. I mean, you can't both marry this fellow, you know. Your mother's probably got a husband, hasn't she?
I think so.
Well, you might...
No.
You might ask her sometime when you're home. Maybe he could come home unexpectedly and trap us.
Well, Joy, thank you very much indeed for agreeing to talk to us today.
Thank you for having me. I have such great memories of Groucho. And he was the one that brought me to California and got me started. So I have a lot to express and thank him for all of his love for me.
Before we get into that, can I just ask you, first of all, before you encountered Groucho, when you were growing up, were you a fan of his and a fan of the Marx Brothers?
Not too much. Let me see. I started on Broadway when I was 17, and I don't know. I remember the Marx Brothers, yes, and we used to watch You Bet Your Life, but not that I followed them that much.
Right. And when you're on You Bet Your Life, you tell him that he was your mother's favorite on TV.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that, but maybe because we used to watch him at home, but we never followed that much the Marx Brothers, but Groucho was a favorite because of that show. So we loved that show. My mom and dad did.
So before we get on to Tell It to Groucho, let's just talk about your first appearance with him, which was as a guest on You Bet Your Life. Can you remember how that came about?
Yes. Um, auditioned. My mom found it out. I didn't have an agent. I wanted to always be an actress. And I auditioned for an open call on Broadway, a show called Make a Million with Sam Levine. And I got the role. And so after got there, after showing it in different states and getting it ready for Broadway, we opened on Broadway. And there was like a little slit in the curtain, and I used to look out and see who was there, and to see that if anybody from Hollywood was there. And the one I looked out one time, I saw Groucho Marx in the front with Jack Benny, and it was all exciting to me, and I told some of the cast. Anyway, the show went on, and my mom got a call. So what he must have done, because I didn't have an agent, he must have went backstage and asked someone to get in touch with me, and they gave him my mom's number. He called my mom and said that he wanted me to come to California and be on his show, You Bet Your Life. And that's how it started. My mom went with me and my sister, and we stayed on Sunset Boulevard, and I did You Bet Your Life. And we went back to New York, and I was back on Broadway again. And it was like quite a while later, and I got a call, my mom did, that he wanted me to come out and I guess replace George Fenneman, to bring out people with another young man. And it was called Tell It to Groucho. So that's what we did. But my mom couldn't go, but my sister went with me. And because, somebody to go with me out there. And I did Tell It to Groucho.
So it was directly as a result of the You Bet Your Life appearance that he kind of remembered you.
I loved coming to California because I just loved acting. And he's the one that brought me here and got me started. I mean, yes, I went back and finished Broadway and all, but then the call came to come out here more often. So that's how he was the help for me to get going. But I'll tell you, I was young, and my sister was with me. We stayed again on Sunset Boulevard, and he had me come to his house, and because he knew my mom didn't come, and he was like a dad to me. And so my sister and I would go over there. He was right there off of Sunset Boulevard in Beverly Hills, and it was a short drive, and we would take a taxi and go over and have dinner with him. And he would say, let's watch a movie or watch TV. And he was concerned, and we did this about 3 or 4 times while I was there doing Tell It to Groucho. And I could tell you, he was like my dad. He was concerned, wanting to know everything was all right, because here were 2 girls out here in California. And of course, everything was good. And he had a lovely home. And then I'm telling you, he was so on top of watching me, but his personality, and I don't know even how to explain this, but he was like he was known for being flirty, I guess. So when they were shooting, he was like not the same. He was like not that he came on strong, but he was flirty,
Yeah.
and that was his. That's what he went by, and I got to know that. So anyway, but I loved him dearly, and after I went back after Tell It to Groucho, we didn't keep in touch. So, but he was a major part of my life.
Was he as funny in private life, or did he not try to be funny when he was off
No, he
screen?
wasn't. He wasn't funny. He was just normal, like a parent would be, and called me and see how I was doing and everything. So, he was very, very regular and very thoughtful to be able to be there for me if I needed anything, and he wanted to make sure I knew that. But his wife wasn't there, and he had a teenage daughter. Um, when we would go over there, we never got to see them. But working on Tell It to Groucho opened up my thought, because when I went to work, um, I love goodies and pastry and all that, and they would have a craft service man set up with all of their goodies out for the people, and that's what craft service is supplying the cast and crew with um, goodies and lunch or whatever. And I would always go to that place and got to know the man, and I would have some of the stuff that was made. Then I had the thought, I went home and would bake. Um, there was like a microwave or something, and I would make cookies and bring it into them. But that's what opened up my mind, and that's how I started Aunt Joy's Cakes, because starting off with Groucho, it was getting to know the craft service, and I thought, oh, I could do that, and that's what we do now. We service all the studios. Everything is getting ready to go out right now to be delivered for the studios. So that's what I do now, and that Groucho opened that up for me and my thoughts.
It's quite funny because in your You Bet Your Life appearance with him, he asks you quite a lot about your cookery skills. So it's sort of an amusing sort of pre-sentiment of what was to be afterwards.
I think he asked me something about what my mom would make.
He asks you a lot about your mom's meatloaf.
Oh, it's my mom's meatloaf.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are your memories of a typical a recording session of the show? Was it very stop-starty, or was it did it flow constantly? Was there a lot of was it heavily scripted, or was it spontaneous? Can you remember?
I think it was all spontaneous. It was spontaneous on my part. I don't think Groucho, I never saw a script with Groucho. And then when we did Tell It to Groucho, we had Jane Mansfield on. I've got a picture with her, and some other, people that were acting at that time. But it was, I think, all on the cuff. I think that's what Groucho is known for, is, being spontaneous.
Backstage, was he a sociable person? Was he very friendly, or was he more solitary?
He was solitary. He was friendly with me, making sure everything was good. And then, like I said, when people would come around, he was like flirty with me, which was so different. And I quite didn't understand that, but I got to know that was what he was known for. But I tell you, he was a dad to me, being out here alone.
You said you didn't keep in touch with him after the show was over. Can you remember? I mean, the last time you saw him, was that the last time you worked with him?
Yes, it was. From Tell It to Groucho, I went back, and I don't know, just so busy. I went right back on Broadway and did another show, and then I was tested at Screen Gems and was sent to California then permanently. But I could say that, my first trip to California was thanks to Groucho for being such a good person to bring me there and to be so thoughtful and have me over at his home with my sister. So,
Did you ever meet any of his brothers?
no, I didn't. Never. They weren't at the house, and they weren't when we were ever doing the, TV show. So I never did.
Yes, hello, Joy. This is Noah Matthews, co-host. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. I was just wondering, when watching you with Groucho in your appearances with him, you and he have such wonderful chemistry together. I mean, you're on that list with Margaret Dumont and George Fenneman and the people who really did very well with Groucho on screen. And he had such a distinctive style. I wonder what you attribute that to. Why did you and Groucho click so well in front of audiences? And did it have something to do with how he obviously made you very comfortable off camera?
I never remember an audience. I just kind of remember talking to Groucho, and I just think I tried to be honest and answer him in every way I could of what my life was like. But I loved the man and I loved my work, and and I just did it. That's it. I don't know much more to how to explain it.
It's interesting because you can sort of in that first appearance on You Bet Your Life, you can sort of see it's almost like a moment where the rapport kind of starts. You start off quite nervously, and you look like you don't quite know what to make of him, and then he gets you to do a cheerleading routine, and suddenly everything relaxes, and that rapport that's in Tell It to Groucho suddenly appears on You Bet Your Life.
Oh yes, I think I've always been like kind of a little bit nervous, but confident and happy. And I just did what he asked me. I answered honestly all the questions in the best way that I could. So that was it. And then I guess I did it all right because he must have liked me because he had me brought back for Tell It to Groucho.
Have you ever rewatched the shows in the years since?
No, no. I have a picture in my office on the front of the thing, and I get people remarking about it, but I haven't watched any of my stuff lately at all. I don't know. I'm just so busy. I work, 5 days a week, and so I just have good memories of all my work, and I'm grateful that I've been able to do it, and then move on to be able to service the studios in another way. And that's where I can attribute my gratitude to Groucho because I became aware of this little stand that would set out food every day. And, years later, I thought, I'll do that. So I was up all night trying to get new recipes and all that. And now I've had my children help me, and my grandson's coming in today. We're short a delivery man, so he's going to deliver. But it's all family.
That's a family business, just like the Marx Brothers.
Yes, that's right. So I'm very grateful to just have him start me. It was just so fun when I looked out and saw him sitting there, and then I never expected he would call my mom and set up for us to fly out there. Never thought that was going to happen.
And then when you first come on the pilot episode of Tell It to Groucho, you're doing a sort of a beatnik dance routine. You're all in black. You and Groucho both come on dancing. It's a really surprising sort of first appearance. It's very effective. And the other thing is that, of course, that you become Patty Harmon for this.
Oh, Patty, I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
why. Yes, my name is Patricia Joy Harmon, but they didn't want Joy because of the soap, Joy soap.
Ah,
Yeah, so they had to change my name. I mean, use
right.
my first name, Patty.
So if your name had been Ivory Harden, that would have been a problem too.
Yep. They just didn't want that to interfere because of the sponsors. So anyway, that's why I was Patty. But then after Groucho, I went back. I've always been Joy.
This is a terrible question to throw at you to put you on the spot, but just when you look back and think about the whole period that you worked with Groucho, are there any particular things he said or things he did, or any particular memories that you have that stick in your mind, particularly from that period?
His love, his thoughtfulness, his caring, his being in touch with me. He didn't have to do that. He was a busy man. And him having me come to his home and having dinner out there for me, and setting up the screen to watch shows, knowing that here I was in California with my younger sister alone. He just was a very thoughtful, loving man. And I don't know if your audiences see that, but that's the true person that Groucho was. The other part that he plays was not, he was playing that part. He was not that part at all. He's a good person. And but that was what he was known for. So anyway.
That's really lovely to hear. I mean, it's obviously it's great. If you sort of idolize someone as we do, and particularly if they have a professional reputation, which is, as you say, very flirty, and also, of course, insults also being a big part of his comedy persona. It's lovely to find people saying, well, actually, in real life, not only was he not like that, but he was an extremely kind and thoughtful man who went out of his way to look out for you.
Yes, that's the true picture of Groucho to me. So it was weird to see that sometimes when he would make a remark to me, or when people would come around, he was different, to show that he was this flirty man. But I got to know that, and I knew that that was not Groucho. And I'm very grateful that he gave me the opportunity to be on his show, and that was my first TV show. Well, I did a lot of TV in New York, advertising the Broadway show, but this was something special that I did, these segments. So I'm very grateful for that.
When you meet people and they find out who you are, do any of them say, "Oh, I remember you from the Groucho show," or is it always, Cool Hand Luke or Village of the Giants or something?
They do. They remember. Yes, few of them, because I think it was so long ago. But I still get fan mail, so many letters, but it's not asking for pictures from Groucho. They don't send me pictures with Groucho.
I was wondering, Joy, these days in your present life, how often is Groucho in your thoughts? Do you think of him often? Is he in your consciousness a lot? Or is it kind of one of those parts of the past that occurs to you now and then?
No, I think it's a foundation of giving me the understanding to always be loving and thoughtful and helpful to others. And that's what he gave me. And I just think it's part of my thinking that makes me strong, to have good people that make me strong throughout my life. And that's one was Groucho.
Right. I think that wraps it up very nicely, Joy. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to do this with you. And I thank you so much for thinking of me. This is something, there's other things that come up and I never go, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. No. But when this came and when you called me, I told my daughter, oh, yes, I want to do this. And I was like, I'm so glad I got to, because Groucho is something special. So thank you for having me. Thank you, Joy. It's been lovely. I get back to baking. Well, that was lovely, wasn't it? That was really nice.
That was so nice to meet her, yes.
And also, I'm not somebody that needs my heroes to be faultless, and it's not gonna ruin my day to find out that they were less than adorable. If somebody worked with Groucho and thought he was a son of a bitch, you're more than welcome to come on here and tell us. But isn't it lovely when somebody has a set of memories like that are so warm and affectionate and loving?
Yeah, so heartwarming. And I love to hear that, people who have tender things to say about Groucho. It's also nice, I think we all just accept that a big part of Groucho's character and humor had to do with this kind of wolfish attitude toward beautiful young women. And when Joy worked with Groucho, she was a beautiful young woman. And very often on You Bet Your Life and its follow-ups, they would put beautiful young women opposite Groucho just for the laugh. He doesn't even have to say anything. A beautiful young woman just walks out on stage and stands next to him, and the look on his face, the audience is laughing at what he's thinking. And I think, especially for those of us who love Groucho now, in the 21st century, while enjoying all of this immensely, we are also always kind of like feeling a sense of thin ice and, oh God, I hope this doesn't go too badly or anything. And it really is wonderful how rarely it does, and how we find that whatever comic mileage Groucho got out of lechery, the man himself, more often than not, seems to have had a protective and paternal and very a defiantly wholesome attitude toward the young women who crossed his path professionally.
Yeah, which is something that you do hear other people saying. The person in Copacabana, is it Gloria Jean?
Yes,
Yeah, who was a former child star and was making an adult kind of adult debut, I think, or near debut at that time, was apparently subjected to a lot of kind of wolf whistly type stuff from the crew, and Groucho actually got angry on her behalf and said, just leave her alone, how dare you treat her like that. And there have been other people as well who've said similar things.
Yes, I think Ann Miller on Room Service.
Yeah. And also June McCloy from Go West said that he would knock on her dressing room door and say, "Are you decent?" and only come in if she said yes, and then just play songs on his guitar. Nothing could be further from the Groucho that we see on screen than "Are you decent?" before marching into a woman's dressing room. But it's interesting as well, isn't it? What Joy was saying about it, almost like he could sort of turn it on like a tap. So when they're together, he's being very, very fatherly and caring and whatever. And then when somebody else comes into the room, he switches and he becomes the Groucho.
Yeah, because it was a character. And yet he could also do both at the same time when necessary. I mean, the episode of Tell It to Groucho that Jane Mansfield and her husband Mickey Hargitay appear on, which Joy also is Groucho's sidekick for that episode. She is right there when Groucho somewhat famously says to Jane Mansfield, people don't realize that you're very smart. That you're a smart, sensitive person playing a role, doing comedy like the same way I do, more or less. That was featured in the recent and very good documentary about Jane Mansfield that her daughter, Mariska Hargitay, made. That's another example where Groucho in that episode, there is no shortage of kind of, basically safe but lecherous jokes about Jane Mansfield and her various assets, but through the same mouth that delivers those jokes so effectively, he also makes this point. He asks his audience to consider this, that what you think this woman is not the whole picture. He was, in addition to being surprisingly forward-thinking for a guy born in the 19th century, he was a father of daughters, and he must have been thinking about that, too, with regard to his treatment and other people's treatment of young women.
But also, I mean, not only was he not lecherous in private with her, but also, I mean, to have paid her any kind of serious attention at all is not something that you know, is common in situations like that, where you have an incredibly famous host, a very sort of, fresh newcomer type sidekick. An awful lot of people would just ignore her, would just pay her no attention at all. If not be actively, rude to her, they would just consider her miles beneath him. But obviously, there's not a hint of that with Groucho. He seems to be somebody who, if you could get through his veneer of kind of self-protective, armor, he does seem to have been a genuinely warm and thoughtful and caring person.
Yes, and as is always, or as is often the case with genuine kindness, it sends ripples far into the future. Joy to this day is obviously touched and moved, and her life has been improved and enhanced by the kindness that Groucho Marx showed her so long ago.
Well, I'm sure we're all three now gonna pick up our phones and order something from Joy's Bakery. But before we do, Noah, have you got a Patreon update for us?
Well, as always, there is no better time to become a subscriber to the Marx Brothers Council podcast on Patreon. Here we have reached the end of another year. 36, postcard 36 will go out in December. So it's been 3 years now of bonus segments, 3 years of postcards, 3 years of the Marx Brothers Council podcast on Patreon. If you haven't joined us yet, it's never too late. At the smallest and least pricey level, you get access to all of our bonus segments, not just the new ones as they come out, but now the entire library. 36 bonus segments out there.
Why did I hear that in Thelma Todd's voice? 3 years of postcards, 3 years of bonus segments.
If you want laughter, gaiety, hot cha-cha, go to patreon.com/Marx Brothers Council podcast.
Okay, well, that's the end of another podcast. Thanks once again to Joy Harmon for joining us and providing such delightful memories of her time with Groucho. So now, in honor of our guest, we are going to end with our final song, and it's Beethoven's Ode to Joy, played on hundreds of ukuleles.
Marx Brothers Council podcast is produced by Bob Gassell. Matthew Conium's books, including The Annotated Marx Brothers, The Annotated Abbott and Costello, and That's Me, Groucho, are published by McFarland. Noah Diamond's book, Give Me a Thrill, The Story of Alsatias, is published by Beer Manor Media. To leave a comment and for more info about this and all episodes, visit us at MarxBrothersCouncilPodcast.com. For the latest Marx Brothers and podcast news, look for us on Blue Sky and Twitter. And join the fun with the largest and most vibrant Marx community online. A club that will have someone like you as a member. The Marx Brothers Council Facebook group. That's it for now. Mary!
That's an old fish. She isn't. Well, she drinks like one. Did you ever meet a fellow named, what was his name? Joe Sexauer? From Alaska?
Oh, you're pulling my leg.
Huh?
You're pulling my leg.
No, I'd be glad to, but bring it up here. I'd be glad to. Well, why did you ask me, though?
Well, I didn't, I don't know. I never heard of that man.
Well, I never heard of a girl offering to let a man pull her leg and then...
No, that's an expression you say.
It is? You say that to everybody?
No, well, if you're teasing me or something, you say you're pulling my leg.
Oh, well, which one, I mean? That's like that old joke, the girl says, she says, oh, dear, I'm afraid I'm going to wind up an old maid. And I say, bring her in and we'll wind her up together. That's a real old joke. That's something like pulling my leg. I know you didn't want me to pull your leg, and I wouldn't have done it anyhow with a man standing here with 4 kids. You have to show a little kind of respectability with a married man. Now, tell me, Joy, do you like to cook? Well, let me put it this way. Do you like to fool around in the kitchen? Because if you like to fool around in the kitchen, you don't have to be able to cook.